Alright, what I'm going to show you is how to get the drums together, seals put on it. As I said, always replace your pistons, bonded pistons. You wouldn't reuse your seals on your aluminum ones, right? So, but what I'm going to do first is show you how to install this interior piston in here. I think every builder I've ever seen has never put this in. I don't know if they're afraid to put it in. I don't know if they don't understand to put it in. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we'll put the rest of the drums together. Alright, what I do is I put this in my arbor press because I want to hold it still. This is the easiest thing for me. Then I take a pry bar and I just pry this up all the way around if I can get it in. Yeah, and it comes right off, just like so. It's just a nice press fit on there. I'll wipe it off real quick. Take your new one. Now what I do is I find anything that will actually fit, not touch the seal, the bonded seal on the outside. Take it like so. And press it down. Alright, brand new seal put in. Not that hard to do. Hopefully I see more people putting these in. But some people are just too lazy. Doesn't want to take the time. What did that take? 10 seconds. I'm not going to do this very often, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use this tool. This is for the fourth clutch on the 4L80E. I will hardly ever do this. Don't waste your money on it. I'm going to try to do it. I've had it since they came out, and I've had very poor luck using this. I quit using it. I'm going to show you how it works. I probably won't be able to get it on. I'll show you the way that I do put it on. But this is probably the only time I'll tell you not to waste your money on a tool, because most of the tools you really need. So let's try it, and we'll go from there. All right, what we're going to do next is we're going to get the fourth clutch together. I see a lot of people not taking these apart. That's a really bad idea. I'm going to show you how to get it together, and hopefully you start doing that, because it's really bad when you guys see a lot of people just put them together, wash them, blow them off, and put them in. Now the seals wear out and you need to replace these, so we'll go and or I'll go and show you how to get this done. Alright, first thing you want to do is get the seals on it. Get the proper seals here and there. You want to lube these up really well. Okay. Good amount of lube all the way around the seal on these. So go on nice and easy. Get it in the protector. This one goes in this direction. Now you set the bottom one down. Put your other one right on top. Carefully push it down. It should slip right down around it, like so. Wait. Ah, got it caught. These things are really tight. Get off. See if I can push it down. That didn't go down. That's what you try with the tool. They are hard to do, so let's show you how to do it without the tool. Set it up like so. Put it on like that. Okay, get your top one, get your seal protector, set it right in there. And these are extremely tight. Get it all the way down. And then get this to go. Come on. Get a little bit tighter. You know you get it down. It will go all the way to the bottom one. This just does not want to play today. This should go up all the way to that once you've got it seated in all the way. Sometimes you have to play with it. This is not going to work. All right, you got your seals on and all lubed up. Now they do have a kit. Put this on. Don't waste your money on it. They are extremely hard to use. I bought this when it came, when the 4L80 came out. paid way too much money for it. I think I've got it to work maybe once or twice in that long. I'm going to show you how I always do it. And it's much easier. Put your rear piston. I have one. This is off a AODE. Put my rear one. Put my top one. And I have my lip seal tools. What I do is I start at the top and carefully get it centered. Carefully get this in all the way around. This seal hits first before the bottom one, which is really nice. After you've got that in, I take it to the edge of the bench and I carefully take my lip seal tool and work the bottom seal in it, being careful not to damage the seal in any way. Slowly work it around. Once you know you've got it all the way around, you can, looks like it's just kind of just a little bit. You must have missed something. Once you get it, just like so, you can see it's all the way down now. Put your ring with your springs and then your snap ring. Just like so. Work it all the way around. Alright, now your fourth club's put together. We're ready to go. I'll show you the rest of them. Alright, we've got our drums. Pistons going with the drums. Need a couple lip seals here. That. The inner lip seal, that's the small one for the old style. There we go. Get your seals put in the right direction. Alright, now a little bit of lube on here. You don't need a lot. I see people, I see builders just put tons of lube on this. I mean, you don't need a lot. You just need it slick on both sides so it'll go on easy. We'll get all the drums done. And what I do, each piston, I just set it in the drum. Make sure you lube all the surfaces. Alright. Now a lot of the time you can just wiggle these around and they will go down. Not all the time. Sometimes they fight you. Of course. Get your tool out. There we go. Same here. the inner one going. And the outer one. They do make tools for this. Put these in. It's funny, I have one. And I can show it to you. Fits in the drum, the piston slides down on it. If you see, it's still got the packing stuff on it. I've never used it, so there's something else you don't really need to buy, because I've always done it like this. Some things on the newer trannies, you have to have those installers because the drums are aluminum and they have sharp edges, and you will cut your lip seals in half. And if you cut your lip seals, your tranny's not going to properly work. Fry it up. A lot of the times this can just spin into place. Alright, let's get our return springs on. With the single support, you can push it down with an arbor press if you want. You really don't have to. It is pretty easy just to push the snap ring in by hand. These other ones you will need a press. A lot of the times you can just get it in. Get this direction so you can see. Get our snap ring down. Take our press it down, and I just push the snap ring down on it. We'll get on that one. Forward direct, same thing. A little smaller one here. Push it down. This one I just need to lock it. Alright. Now we'll load the clutches and check the clearance. Now that I've got my bushings on, what I'm going to do is install my Teflon rings in my input shaft. Need to have the tools for it. About 6 months ago, my big one rolled off the bench and broke. It was a little cold then for this side, so I've got to do it a little bit different on this. I'll use this to stretch them out. Get them a little bit bigger. Then I'll be able to work them down. And get them installed. Anytime you're putting rings on, you should have the sizers for them so you can get them properly sized and don't ruin them when you put them together. One thing I've seen people do is scarf cut these. Take the solid ring and take a razor blade and cut it. That's probably one of the worst things you can do for these. You should never scarf cut them. If it was okay to scarf cut them, they'd be that way when you get them, and you wouldn't have to size them. So if you're doing one and they are solid rings, that means you need to get a sizer for it so you can do this properly. Scarf cutting them is just going to give you headaches, problems. You don't want problems. You don't want to have to pull it out again and do it again. Just do it right the first time. Get your seals. put on. I like to leave these on here for a little while to make sure they get properly sized. I do this while I'm putting the drums and stuff together. So by the time I get to install this in the tranny, I know the rings are properly sized and I won't damage them putting the transmission together. Tools are kind of expensive. If I remember right, these are about $200 for both of these. It's a set. But that's the only way to do it. And never reuse your old Teflons. So we've got that done. Now, all right, now we got our pistons installed. We are going to start stacking our clutches. We'll stack clutches inside the drum piston, but we want to put the sealing rings on here. And there is a seal for the cooler line that goes in right here. That is, and there is the seal second. Make sure before you install these like this, you don't lose an O-ring. Try to look for it. Can't find it because it's stuck in that, and you've already got it installed. And then there is, there'll be 4 of these. Now when these first came out, these seals and the ones for the pump are the same as this style. I unfortunately had bought the tools to undo them, but now they've changed them to this style, which is easier, but now I spent all that money on tools. Get our sealing rings installed. You want to space the cuts 1/3 of the way all the way around. You don't want them above each other. I'll double check after I get it in, make sure I got those the right way. Take just a little socket and lightly tap this in. Alright, that's ready to go. We'll set this off to the side. Now when you put your clutches together, like this one has a planet that goes in it that you need to put on, and this one has a center hub that you put installed on the top plate, and you can't check your drum, you can't check your clearance with your plate in there and everything, so we need to put it together without this hub first and check our clearances. We've got our overdrive, forwards, on the ranks. Now, the difference between the forward and the direct is if you look on the notches here, if you look at the forward, it has what we call a dovetail. This is a thinner steel. It goes in the forward drum. The thicker ones go in the direct. Make sure you don't get them messed up because it will. That's how you do your clearance. Excuse me. Let's see. Get our clutches here. We'll start with this one first. We'll get them all together, then we'll check our clearances. For the directs to have waves, make sure you get them in there. People ask me if it matters where these things point. It really doesn't. Just as long as you go every other one. Get it stacked up. Directs and just do a deck of cards. Set them in real quick, hopefully. Alright, put our plate on here, get our snap rings. Then we want to check our clearance. If you're not sure of the clearance, get your dial indicator out, check them. A lot of them. I've done enough of them so I know. If you're not sure, get your dial indicator out, put on it. Get your feeler gauge, whatever makes you comfortable. Sometimes I use drill bits that are a certain thickness and see if they go in there. It's up to you how you do it. Check your clearances. Make sure you've got them right. If they're too loose or too tight, you will have a slide bump or a bump into gear, and you don't need that. The direct I can keep together, I will put the snap ring halfway out. I'll explain that why. When I go to put it in, you'll kind of understand then. I get the hub installed on our forward here. It's much easier to put the hub on and then everything else. The hub has a brass washer. I'll just put a little lube on it. You don't want to have anything dry. Then we will stack our clutches again. Feels so weird. There. Must have had that little cushion plate caught somehow. We got it down now. Plate on it, and make sure snap it all the way in. A couple different ways you can do this one. We'll put our roller clutch on there. I've stacked the clutches and steels on here and put them together. There's different ways you can do it. No matter what way you do it, it takes a little bit to get them down. I usually leave the snapping off so it has a little bit more play in it, and you just kind of move it around and shake it till it goes all the way down. Wow, it just doesn't. Oh, I dropped that last clutch. Oh, okay, that's why. I lost a roller. That's why I was fighting it. try it again. There we go. Now, to make sure you go all the way down, what I do is I take a 90-degree pick, and you shouldn't be able to get it between the drum and the planet. Then you know you're all the way down. We'll put our snap ring in. All right. Now what I like to do is to make sure this doesn't come apart. I put a little lube, that's going to run on that bushing in there. You always want to lube everything up. You never want it to put it together dry. Carefully stick your shaft through. And then I'll install my snap ring. I'll put this right back on, and then I'll set it off to the side, and that's ready to be installed. Now on my direct drum, the back side of it, we need to put our sprag. Put the low roller or the race down. If you look at it, one side has a lip, the other side does not. The lip faces down on these, okay? And sometimes you have to put it in the outer race to get it to go. Now, it should always turn clockwise. Install the top race, turn clockwise, lock counter, and we want to install our retainer and our spiral snap ring. Seeing people leave these on and just say, oh, it's good, and they have problems with the sprag, but they're not strong enough to make it slide backwards. But the car will be strong enough. So always take these apart, always check them. Like I said, you only want to do this once, you don't want to have to do it twice, because you always eat it the second time, and you're getting paid the first time. So, all right, there's those. Now we'll get on to our pump. I always take the valves out before I wash it, get it all clean. You know, you got your boost valve, your pressure regulator valve, converter limit valve, enable valve, and the shift valve. You got to make sure you clean them out, or take them out, clean them up really good, and then we'll get it back together. I always like to start on 3 of them go on this side, so I'll put always put a little ATF in it, makes them go back together easier. I will put the plug for the torque converter shift valve. I always like to put this one in first, and then I can just put all 3 of them the other way. These need to fit really, really tight. If these plugs leak, the valve will leak, and it won't properly seal. Seal the valve, and it won't properly stroke. That is tight. There is aftermarket plugs you can buy that have rubber O-rings on it to help. That would be a good idea if you want to. That ensures that it won't leak. Now, valve goes in first for the spring. And we have the little retainer for the plug. and then the retaining pin will hold it in place. Alright, TCC enable valve goes in. This spring was white, this one's blue. You have to push the spring down just a little bit. This is the only one that has this style of retainer to hold the spring in. Make sure you don't get the spring caught on the back side. This one. Now the limit valve, spring, get the plug. See what happens? Alright, now this one, put a plug in. If this leaks here, you blow off a lot of pressure. So if this one's not tight, you can either take it out for a second. Show you. Either get the one with the O-ring on it, or if it's loose, I've taken my steel pipe cutter and put it on here for steel lines, and put a little ridge around here to help seal it off. It would be better to put a new one in it that's tight so it seals, because if you get blow by on this, you will lose pressure. A little ATF. Put your valve in. These should be nice and free. You can see how easy that is to go up and down. Your outer spring, this has an inner spring. Then it has a washer that goes on top of that. Now on your boost valve, this is an aftermarket one. You got to make sure this is tight. If this has any play in it, this needs to be replaced. I always put it in backwards and make sure this valve doesn't move back and forth. This is nice and tight. If it did move back and forth, I'd need to replace this. They're pretty common. And then you have to put just a little bit of goo on the end of it to hold it in place while you install it. Because if you hold it up, it'll drop down, the valve will fall out, then you'll have a hard time getting it down. And install the snap ring like that. All right, we got the valves in it. Now we'll put the pump together. You always want to put ATF in there. I squirt a little bit. Put your gears in. If you look at it, the little slot, the little recess here goes out, so we'll put that down like that, and like so. And we'll put some ATF on top, and on the stator. Set that together. All right, get our bolts. Early ones don't have this. Later ones do. A little deflector. Oil squirts out of the back of that. Start all your bolts. And get your alignment tool. Make sure everything's nice and even all the way around. Make sure your bolt holes are not blocked, because it will shift back and forth enough to block the holes. Get it tight, and then with your speed handle, get them down. Never use a gun on this, electric gun. I see a lot of the new people, they're using their battery operated guns, and those put way too much torque on these. Never use a gun like that to put a transmission together. Always torque it to specs. Look up your specs for whatever pump you're putting together and torque it in star pattern, and always go around twice. All right, take the pressure off this. Take it off, and what we'll do is we want to stick a pick and carefully down there to make sure the pump turns. And this turns nice and easy. So we're good with that. Pump's ready in the stall, and we'll hang our case and start to put it together. Now when I was doing bushings, if you noticed, I didn't show you the case bushing. There's a reason. This is the case bushing. This is what it usually looks like. It's a really thin, small one. This one has already got an updated bushing in it, which I would recommend. I don't like these. These are just too small. They seem to come out. This one's from Sonic, so let me show it to you. This is a much bigger bushing, as you can see. It's a lathe cut. It's like a complete solid brass bushing. This is a little bit smaller. See how thin it is and how much thicker this one is? This just gives you so much more support. I'd recommend putting one in every 4L80E you do. Never put this one in the case. These are only like 20 bucks, if that. So always replace that. On the back side here, where the bushing is, there is a seal that goes there. Put just a teeny bit of lube on there. And we're going to tap this into place. There's a snap ring that fits in the back, just like so. Now, if you're changing this out from a 4-wheel drive to a 2-wheel drive, you'll notice this little plug over here. In a 4-wheel drive, this plug will be solid. In a 2-wheel drive, it has a small little P hole. This is the one that comes in the kit. They give you this in the kit in case you're changing them over. If it's a 4-wheel drive and you're going for 2-wheel drive and you don't replace this, this squirts fluid on the back bushing. And if you don't replace this with the right one, you will burn up your output shaft bushing pretty quick. So if you're taking a transmission and taking it from a 4-wheel drive to a 2-wheel drive, make sure you put this in there. It's got to have that little P hole. What I'm going to do is put the gear train together that gets set in as one piece to put in the back of the transmission. I'm not sure, but I think I'm missing a bearing. I won't know until I have it together. A lot of them, when there's no hole through there, they have a little shim. Some of them do, some of them don't, for this bearing to sit on. I can't find one. I won't know until I have this installed in the case, so I'm going to put it together. And if I have to, I'm going to have to stop and wait till I get another one. I've looked through all my stuff and I don't have one to even try. So, bearing goes in your wing gear, your rear planet. We'll put some oil on this in a little bit. On the bottom, you have another set right there. Now here we'll put a little ATF. We want to put everything together wet. We don't want to have anything dry. As soon as you fire it up, you'll burn it up. Install your snap ring. See the 4 holes on the bottom? This takes the metal one on the bottom. Put just a little bit of assembly lube on this. Okay, now we'll put a little oil. Our thrust washer for the 2 planets. A little oil on that. And we'll set our other planet in. Now we have our sun gear. If you look at the sun gear, one side's completely flat, and the other side's got a little bevel on it. The little bevel goes down, okay? Then our shaft. There's a hole here, and if you look at the sun gear, it's got little notches. You need to line that hole up with the little notch, so the lube goes to the hole to the gear properly. And then again, you've got another another bearing. Set that on there, and again, ATF. Now, oh, looks like I lost a roller. Put the spring and roller in there. All right, put the roller in. Oh, I must have changed. Maybe that one had a different one. The ring, some of these, there's 2 different styles. Some of these rollers have these little feet on the bottom that hold it up. The older ones do not, and they have this ring inside. Planet's the same. All you got to do is, if you don't have feet, you need this. So we'll put that in. Try not to lose any of the rollers in it. Alright, and we got a thrust washer that goes right on top of here. We'll put just a little bit of lube on that. Put it down and put a little bit more. Now, our center support goes right down on top of that. There we go. Now this whole assembly is ready to put in. You have to put it in, is this. As you see, we've got it flipped around. The seal's put in. I've put a little lube on our bushing down there. There's a shim you put at the bottom. These are selective. So always put the same one back in. Fits in nice and tight right there. We will take our rear band and get our rear band installed. I always like to take a screwdriver through the servo pin hole for the rear band. Helps to line it up a lot quicker. Now I'm ready to install the gear assembly. I've got my gear assembly here. It's ready to go. There's a hole here that the center support bolt goes through, the two lines. On one of these, it's angled. You'll see that when I put it in the case. You can buy some really expensive things from Kent Moore and stuff to put this in, but what I use is a pair of welding vice grips, just like so, and allows me to pick it up and set it in. So we'll do that. We'll set the assembly in. Get it all lined up. That little edge I showed you, right down to the ground. Now we install the snap ring. It's beveled. It's shallower on the outside, thicker on the inside. The bevel goes up. The other side's flat. There's one side that's got the bevel on it. Get that down and put into place. Once that's into place, I like to spin it. Looks like we're spinning good. All right, now let's get our intermediates put in. This has a wavy spring and a bottom spring. doesn't want to play. All right, this is like all of them. Clutch still, clutch still. All right, again, you want to check your clearance. I have a drill bit that I like to use. See? And I can't get it in, so we're good. Now we want the band, the front band. The only time this band ever comes on is when you're in manual second. Other than that, this band never applies. 99% of the time, this band is never used when you take a transmission apart, this kind of transmission. Now, if you remember, I told you to leave the snap ring loose. Is what I do is I take the snap ring out, and I'll remove the pressure plate and the first couple of clutches and stills. That allows me to hang on to this to set it in. So I'm going to do that. Now I can grab the springs by hand. Oh, before I do that, let's like lube it up a little bit. Now I can grab this, and what you want it to do is get the drum over the clutches that you just put in. That's the sprag on the back of this direct drum. Ah, there we go. We're all the way down. Now reinstall the rest of the clutches and stills, backing plate, and the snap ring. Make sure you get it all the way in. All right, now you have your forward drum. Make sure you put your washer on it. Washer goes there, and you'll put this face down. Put a little lube for the washer. And set this. And you got to line that up with the directs that you just put in. Sometimes they drop right down, and sometimes they don't. There you go. All right, now we got our fourth clutch housing. It goes in one way. You got a bolt hole here and a hole up in the front of the case. I'm going to set that in. You get new bolts in the kit for it, and I start this one here so I can pull it up. Sometimes you have to pull it up, wiggle it around to get it started. All right, once you got that started, take your bearing, again, little ATF, take your input drum or input shaft and drum assembly and set it on. You have to remove your sizer, of course. All right, then we put fourth in, and this is just again clutch still, or still clutch, and a backing plate. You notice these will only fit in one direction. There is a dovetail cut right there, which goes up top. It is smaller than the other ones. They only go in one way. The later styles have a big pin that's in the case and a big nut. It's a lot different. Stills are the same, but the pressure plate's different. Put the pressure plate in and the snap ring. Now, what I didn't show you that I did is I checked this. I put these in before I put the drum in a long time ago and checked the clearance. So our clearance is good here. I'm going to put a lube down, a little tacky lube. Want a little bit to hold the drum, or hold the gasket, and the rest of it's just going to lube it up really good. Get it on there. Put the O-ring, or the gasket in, and I'll put the O-ring on the pump. There's a groove in the pump, just put the O-ring in it with the color side out. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they're yellow. Depends on what brand of kit you're using. Take this off, and we'll lube it up really good. I've already got my seals. I don't know if you can see it. I've already got my seals put on here and my thrust washer. And we'll set our pump on. Now, like I always say, the biggest mistake a lot of people do is they will take these bolts and they'll start them all and they'll run it down with their gun. That's the worst idea you can ever do. You never do that. Put all your O-rings on, and then I'll show you how to put it down. And once you've got it this far, what you do is you take your mallet and you tap it down. Okay, it's all the way down. And now we'll use the speed handle. Put them in. Just like any other thing, crisscross. Whoop. Then use your torque wrench to torque these to specs. Always torque them to specs. Get yourself a good quality torque wrench. I go around and check them again, make sure they're all good. All right, now we'll get to the valve body. Oh, one last thing. The O-ring goes on the seal right here for the torque converter. Make sure you put that on. Now we'll get to the valve body. We got it on its back. That's the bolt for the overdrive, or the fourth gear. And remember the center support bolt? You get a new one in the kit, same with the overdrive. Always put the new ones in it. You want to torque these to specs. Look at the specifications for your vehicle or your tranny. This should be pretty much the same, but you gotta have to do a little work. And you torque these down. It'll take a second, but like so, for that one. See if I can get it down faster with. This one's pretty tough to get in. It's tapered, and that's about it. Never use your gun to run these down. If you do, you have a good chance of warping the case. If you warp the case, well, that's a lot of money and damage to the interior parts. So alright, we got that down. We'll get the valve body put on. Before we do the valve body, we'll put servos in for the bands. Spring. These have a Teflon ring on these. And then the reverse servo. Some of these are Teflon, some of them are D-rings. Most likely, if it's a 4L80E, they are D-rings. 700s or 400s, they will be most likely they will be Teflon. But double check Teflon. The groove's thinner. D-rings won't fit in it. We'll get this lubed up. Put the little one inside the big one. Make sure it's even. Get this all lubed up. We have the return springs, pretty hefty. Put that in. Just go push it right down. Now these have this little metal washer that goes over the top, or gasket. Put that on there. It only goes on in one direction. And then we will find all the bolts. The 6 bolts, and install it and torque it to specs. Again, torque your bolts to specs. All right, now what I like to do, there's a little hole right here. You can apply some air to it to see if it works. It's going to leak by because it's not a solid leak here, but I can see band applying every time. All right, get a little closer. I'm going to start putting it in. Right here, there's a filter. Make sure you replace that. Just pushes right into space or into place. We have check balls. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm missing 2. Wow. And 7, 8. Oh. Unless your fingers don't work, then it doesn't get one in the bottom there. There is a little divot right here for a check ball. Do not put one there. If I remember right, it locks it up in a gear. I don't remember. I haven't had anybody do it in a long time, so I don't really remember what it does. Now there's 2 holes, alignment pin holes, up in the corner. We get our gaskets. These are the alignment holes because they're smaller than the other ones. But this just helps it. And we get our valve body that we've already done. Install the manual valve. And then this is just the easiest way to do it with the alignment pin to make sure you don't couple a gasket or something like that. All right, now we'll get the bolts in. They're all 10mm head bolts, except for these 6 that are 8mm bolts, which, where is the manifold pressure switch? Wow, well, I found my manifold pressure switch. I left it in the solvent tank. Had to move the camera out of the way so I could get to my solvent tank. So all the 10s go on the other ones in the blank holes, and the 8mm head bolts go on your pressure or your manifold pressure switch. Once I get a few of these in, I can take my alignment pins back out and we'll be okay. Now there's a couple of these that will have brackets on them that hold wire fittings down, one up front. And oh, there it is. Thought it was gone. One right here. Back here there's a bracket that will hold a lube tube that goes to the rear bearing or rear bushing. You have to make sure you get that in. And spring for your rooster comb detent. Alright, like all of them, never ever run this down with a gun. Always use a speed handle. As I said before, a lot of people have those, everybody's using the new drills and everything. Drills really put too much torque on these. You'll over torque your valve body and it will cause you problems. So again, do all this by hand. All right, then go through and torque them to specs. We've got our wiring loom in now. Always replace the seal. Be careful when you're taking these out that you don't break the little tabs, the retaining tabs that hold it into the case. If you do, you're going to need to replace this. They do make brackets to bolt on the back of it to hold it in place. You can do that if you want. Just be really careful when you take these out, then you won't have a problem with it. Set that right through the case, click it in. All right. Plug in A and B solenoid. Manifold pressure switch. Put the wiring loom in the little clips. Torque converter. And your EPC solenoid. Now in the back, we're going to put our little tube that lubes the rear part of the case. There's a little hole in the back. There's a little hole in the back here. Hopefully you can see it from that angle. And one right here. That little tube goes there. Then you have a bracket. And your bolt. Wow. Again, torque it to specs. Never use a gun on it. Filter in. Got to replace the member. We knocked out the, or somebody knocked out the seal. I don't know if I did or if it was knocked out from whoever took it apart. Remember, I didn't take this apart for you. We install a new seal. And put it on. Put the filter on. The pan. Problem is, my kit didn't come with a pan gasket, so we're not going to put this on for you. But hopefully you understand how to put a pan on. I'll put these two bolts to hold it real quick while I do a couple more things. Well, didn't even realize that key doesn't put it on. No pan. No pan gasket. They usually have this nice big thick reusable one, but for some reason this one doesn't have it. Somebody probably wanted it and took it out. Don't forget to put your shift shaft seal in. Hopefully you have a tool for that. Like so. Flip up like so. Remember, I got the towel housing, got the new bushing and seal in it. Put that on. Make sure you start all these if you get them off. A little bit I've seen, if it gets cockeyed a little bit, people will zip this down with a gun and break them. So make sure you got them all started before. And you can just put them down with your gun. There you have it, your 4L80E. It's ready to be put in the car. We got our speed sensors to put in. Got to get me a pan gasket, but other than that, we're ready to go. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. Hope I helped some people out who are having problems with these. I don't know. We will see you again. We'll keep on putting more videos out. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks again.